Toronto Maple Leafs have just robbed the NHL. As following what has been a crazy offseason thus far, the Leafs have made their draft pick and they have picked somebody that is not only highly regarded, but has some physical tools that are absolutely insane. We're going to break down this exact player and discuss why the Leafs robbed the rest of the NHL. But before we get into it all, folks, if you're part of the percentage you aren't subscribed to the channel and you're enjoying the daily Leafs content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. As 71% of you are watching right now aren't subscribed, so make sure to hit that button. Darius, it's the NHL draft yesterday and today. Of course, we were live for part of the first round yesterday, and the Leafs finally made their pick today. And this is a pretty exciting one because now we have some new personnel there in the Leafs front office and their new draft philosophy, the new draft style. We touched on it yesterday in the stream. We touched on it yesterday in the video, and we're going to touch on it today as they have officially, literally 1 minute ago, once again, made their pick. And Darius, it is an interesting one. Now, of course, they had the 64th pick in the draft. They didn't have their first round pick this year. I believe it was gone in the Jake McCabe trade. So we'll take that 10 times out of 10 here. But this is a 6'3" forward, and he is. There were some people who wanted other players. We'll dive into those a little bit. But this guy has some upside here, and we'll dive into some of the stats and things like that that not a lot of the other players at this spot had.
No, and there is no way, just full transparency, that we're going to be pronouncing this guy's name correctly for, the next little while. I'm sure we're going to get a pronunciation from the team themselves, but this is a great, I'm going to call him Cobbler. Yeah. And this is a great pick for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, anytime, of course, everyone's rushing to Google and all of those things to find out who this guy is, elite prospects and all those pages. And anytime you do that and you find out that the guy that the Leafs drafted doesn't have any photos on Google, you get a little scared. But when you dive into it, this is a really good prospect, and he has size. This is the first draft, like you alluded to, with Mr. Leach at the helm of amateur scouting. And, he came from the Dallas Stars, and Wes Clark is gone now. He's with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Penguins making some questionable choices in the first round yesterday. But when you look at this one, he's a big player that could be considered a project player, but he has so much skill. They're going to be able to help him and develop him. And, we've seen everything that, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the organization, has done with the Toronto Marlies and how they take their time developing prospects and, all the different skills coaches and all of that, this is the type of player that's going to be able to come in. And I think he's going to be able to develop into a really, really good NHLer. And they said, we'll dive into it. A couple of people and analysts have him as maybe not the most aggressive or physical type, but he does have a big frame and knows how to use it appropriately. So he might not be like a Sam Bennett type or anything like that, but he's going to win majority of his puck battles, all of those things. He's going to go to the dirty areas, and he has a lot of skill. He can put the puck at the back of the net and all of these things, and he's only going to get better at doing that. So a pretty interesting draft pick for sure. Norwegian born, a little bit different for sure. But I think this is a really good pick that Leaf fans should be excited about. And of course, he has size. This is a really good thing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people already reacting. A lot of analysts saying that overall, a pretty solid pick, an interesting one, a bit of an not necessarily off the board, but last season, looking at his stats, you mentioned Norwegian. Again, he's only 17 years old, of course, which 2007 born for this draft class, which is a little bit crazy, but it is what it is there. 21 points, 8 goals, 13 assists. Now, of course, those numbers aren't going to jump off of the paper and jump off the page of you. And of course, again, it's a second round pick. It's a 64th overall. But the Leafs have had some success with their second round picks, and they've also had some non-success. But of course, first draft with Leach, I really like the way that they went about it. And again, he is very, very tall, like 6'3" as a forward. As a 17-year, he could grow another inch or two, maybe. If he was 6'5" forward here for the Leafs. And here's some of the the summaries and interesting notes about him. So he's a big prospect who could reward a team as a mid-round project. Final rankings, I'm going to call him Luke Koblar. So Luke Koblar's package of tools is very enticing. The tall and lanky center combines sharp agility with quick handles. And yes, he is a center. In case we didn't mention that, he is a center, which is very, very interesting as well. The tall and lanky center combines sharp agility with very quick handles to exploit strong defenses. He also has moments of physicality that should only become more frequent and violent as he gets stronger. And again, I think they're probably playing for a bit of an upside play here long term because, again, he's 17, a project player. But if he comes into his own, fills out his body, gets even stronger, if you could have Matthew Nyes, a big power forward, and then Koblar in a few years as a center who is 6'3", 6'4", if he grows 6'5", whatever, he's only 17. That could be a huge just upside play for one of these lines going forward. And he is this is very exciting to me. And just given you can't teach height and can't teach strength, it'll be up to them to see how they develop him and how it works. Of course, there's a bit of a risk here as well, a bit of a high risk, high reward play because there is times where tall players end up if their skills don't develop, it becomes a bit of an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a world where it doesn't work out, but like I mentioned, you know, with him coming into the Leafs organization and working with their development staff, I have faith in this pick. I think this is a good pick, and you know, is he close to the NHL? I mean, no, probably not. And at the same time, he's only 17 years old, like you mentioned. He could get up to 6'4", right? If he puts on some weight, he can get up to like well over 200 pounds. So this is going to be a guy who's going to be hard to play against. So I think that again, he might not come into the NHL and score you 40 goals. There's nothing that's suggesting that he's going to be able to do that, right? But he's going to come in, he's going to be hard to play against and do all the right things and add these tools that maybe he can score big goals in big moments. So it's going to be fun to watch his development. This is not necessarily off the board, right? Nobody's really saying, you know, maybe he could have went a little bit lower, that's for sure. But I think the Leafs took a player that, like you said, you can't teach size and how to use your body, right? You can try and direct people in the right direction and players in the right direction, but it sounds like this guy already knows how to do that. And he has you know, experience with the national team. He's already made the national team, right? So there's a lot of really good things here and a lot to like about this player. And again, he's going to take a minute to develop. So let's not, you know, pressure him. He's not going to be an Easton Cowan or anything like that. That's going to come in with all this speed and flash and probably make the NHL in 2 years or something like that. This is not the case. He's going to take a little while, but he's the type of guy that I think can make a difference and can make a difference in playoff games because of his size and just what he brings to the table. So it's going to be interesting to see, and I'm excited to see what he says about being a Toronto Maple Leaf. Of course, we're going to cover that and the rest of their draft picks as well. But I like this pick. It's not flashy or anything, but you know, you're adding more guys that I think are going to be difficult to play against, and you're going to be able to develop them with your development staff.
And obviously, you can see his stats here dating back to when he was 16 on the U16. The World Juniors, all these different things. Very, very solid. You know, not stats that'll jump off the page necessarily, but even looking back there to 2023, 2024, with the 18 team, 9 goals, 23 points, or 23 assists rather, for 32 points in 22 games. And for someone who's not going to be scoring a lot of goals, I would expect him to be, maybe peak at a 20-goal scorer or something like that. It's going to be maybe even better. It's going to be very interesting. One quick thing before we wrap up with Stephen Ellis. As a 6'3" center, there's a lot to like from his physical attributes. He's not a crushing presence, but he's competitive and strong enough to win out most individual battles. Mix in good skating and good hockey IQ, and I think there's definitely some late bloomer potential if he can unlock another level in his offensive game. So, of course, these analysts, they know a lot more about, Kohlberg than we do, especially when, there were some other guys on the board that, fans may have or may not have wanted. Let us know down below who you would have liked them to draft and if you're happy with this pick. But again, anytime they draft someone who has this physical profile as this, it gets me a little bit excited there. And again, the key part here is if his offensive game can develop, because if it can, he's guaranteed a third line spot on any NHL team, because every team could use that. And if not, it'll be interesting to see how they develop him going forward. But very big contrast to Easton Cowan and the pick they went there, when they did that. But let us know down below what your thoughts are on this. Are you excited about the player? We'll keep you up to date with everything Leafs related. Thank you guys for watching.